Okay, Unit 3, Greenbelt. We're going to be talking a little bit about projects. The first thing you want to do is a project charter. And there's no exact form for this. If you need to, go on, do a Google search and just look for images. You'll see what a charter looks like. But it's got to have a business case. Why are you doing it for business? Market share or money? Why are you even doing it? And a problem statement. Make sure your project, you don't want one that's so big you can't possibly get it done, but you want one so small it doesn't make a real impact. There's going to be some negotiating. Talking about here with negotiating with the champion, the process owner, and you also the scope again. Getting back to the problem statement, you want to make sure that it's not overwhelming. What's your overall goal? What are some milestones? I've seen projects that last forever. These things have to be done. A sense of urgency. Who's going to be on the team? What resources do you need? And who's all going to be impacted by the project? There are different tools for projects. There's Pareto diagrams. That's where you basically find out what your biggest problems are and fix those. Usually about the 20-80 rules, what you hear a lot of time. Flow charts. Close to that is also value stream mapping. Basically, how does the value or how does the product flow through your process? Voice of the customer. QFD is another way of doing this. But basically, what does your customer want? Is how do you know what the customer wants? How does the customer, what does the customer value ultimately? There are different ways of doing that. Kano model will talk about satisfaction, customer satisfaction. Ultimately, you want to put delighters. Get the customer satisfied by giving him delighters. Things he doesn't expect, but he gets it and he really appreciates it. Critical to quality tree. What makes a product good? What's critical to that quality? And again, how do you define quality will be another thing you have to figure out. An affinity diagram. Basically, this is a management tool, one of the 7 basic management tools. And it's just brainstorming, and then after you get up all these ideas for quality and other aspects of the project, you group them into groups as they naturally relate to each other. Garvin and Besterfield, they're trying to figure out what are the 9 dimensions of quality. I think they're up at the University of Wisconsin. Sometimes I wish I wasn't so lazy. I'd actually check on that. But anyway, they came up with the 9 dimensions of quality. And the reason I did that is so you can put metrics on each of these dimensions: performance, features, conformance, reliability, durability, service, response, aesthetics, reputation. Again, how do you put metrics on all that? And I'm going to throw out there's another one. It's called the Baldrige criteria, Malcolm Baldrige National Quality Award criteria. If you get a chance, I think I've already posted it. In fact, I know I have. Take a look at some of the examples of some of the winners and how they measure these different aspects. Okay. And road throughput yield. A lot of people just measure first pass yield, basically how many pass at the test stand. What they don't count is all the crap that falls out during the process. And usually, world class is they attack where the problem is in the process. Where are you getting the most scrap? Where's most of the fallout coming out? Well, when you start a project, what you want to do is plan that project, and you want to make sure you're going to achieve your ultimate objectives. What are the goals, right? And you got to make sure you have the resources. And there are 3 stages of project management: planning, scheduling, and controlling. And there's all kinds of like Gantt tools and things like that, free online now. Microsoft Project's another one. But planning, scheduling, and controlling. There's nothing worse than trying to complete a project that's not well planned out. Some different elements of project planning. First of all, you want to know what your time limits, and this is important if you want to stay on schedule. We used to do what's called critical path method. PERT's another one, but these are all scheduled. You just basically, these are the things you have to do on time, and these are the things you can slack off on. Who's responsible? Who reporting? If it doesn't get reported, it doesn't get done. And how are you going to get the task done? How do you do the metrics? Can you identify problems early, right? Corrective action on the problems. Know when a project hits its objectives. When are you done with it? And be better at it next time. You know, Liberty ships in the World War II, they could pump one of those out every 24 hours. And they're pumping out bombers like once an hour because they knew what they had to do and they could plan for it. That's the way you want to get. There are 4 project planning basically ways of doing this thing. There's a work breakdown sketch structure, again PERT, critical path method, CPM, and the Gantt charts. And I'm not even going to try to describe it because there's no way I can do that. I can't do it. Just there'll be some readings that you can look at. Also, YouTube's got all this on it too. So one of the things you got to do, again, measurements, metrics, even on the project. So what gets measured, you know, and why are you measuring it? There's nothing worse than gathering data that isn't used. And how often is it reported? Again, if it's not reported, it usually doesn't get done. When to report unusual events? As soon as they happen. That's a no-brainer. And feedback. Provide feedback to the person doing the task. And again, milestones. You want to keep on track. I've seen projects that last forever. They never get done. I've got one now that the guy's working on for 14 months. And it should be about a 2-month project. I'm okay. I just vented. I'm okay. But get it done. Back in the day, I used to fly helicopters for the Army. And we used to sit around and drink coffee and say, do this what if. What if we punch into a cloud in our VF and we don't have the instruments to fly? What if our radio goes off? What if we take ground fire? What if? That's kind of risk planning and risk assessment. And what would you do? Risk handling. And how are you going to monitor it? Make sure that that's actually happening. Healthcare, this is huge in healthcare. Well, it's huge everywhere. We live in a world where if you cause harm and they can prove negligence, you're going to get sued. A different methodology: identify, analyze, plan, track, control, mitigate, and communicate. I'm going to show you a slide on that. The next slide. One of the biggest problems in any organization is communication, and I don't know how to communicate perfectly. If I did, I'd be a millionaire, right? But here are all the steps for risk analysis, and centered amongst them is communication, right in the middle. I wish there was a good way to do this. I wish I had the magic bullet, but I don't. But anyway, you got to communicate. Later on, I'm going to share a Six Sigma project that we did. And you can see all these things, the final report, right? The big thing that I learned in teamwork is recognition. You need to have 3 attaboys or attagirls to everyone. Oh, you screwed up. 3 to 1. And that seems to be the right formula. If you have too many attaboys, they don't take them serious. If you don't give them enough attaboys, morale goes down and you lose them. And finally, archiving, lessons learned. I can't tell you how many times I used to fix the same problems over and over again back in when I worked in corporate. Instead of me talking about these 7 tools, right, go to asq.org and see if you can look them up. It'll be a good exercise how to use that website. And also, if you have any questions, just do a YouTube search on all these, okay? They do pretty good. Wikipedia is starting to come on too with all these. Good examples, good descriptions. But these are the 7 management and planning tools, traditional. Metrics, right? How are you going to do this? Six Sigma metrics. These actually came up from Motorola when they first started in the 1990s. Defects per unit. So you're making a car, let's say. Well, what's wrong with it? It's got a windshield wiper doesn't work. It's got a tire that leaks. It's got a door that doesn't close quite right. These are all defects. So you might say, well, there are 3 things wrong with this car. It's 3 defects per unit. And then Motorola said, well, look, you know, if we make cell phones, those are a lot more complicated than say, earbuds. So what Motorola started doing is says, how many opportunities do I have to make a mistake? And then they say, how many defects per opportunity? How many per unit of opportunity? And then they converted that to ppm, defects per million opportunities. That way they could compare different products of varying complexity. yield, a couple of them, throughput yield, how much gets through a process, right? Um, at each step of the process. And then you got rolled throughput yield. And you just don't add them together, you just multiply them together. So say you got a 3-step process and only 90% make it through each step. Well, you get 90% of 90%, which is 81. Then 90% of that 81, which is about 73. So you got a basically 73% rolled throughput yield. You had 100% start, only 73% made it through. And then Motorola came up with this thing called Sigma level. GE's big on it too. But basically it says how do you compare, and the higher the Sigma level, and it's based on ppm, and there's a little exercise that you have to look at this up and get it off the chart, but Sigma level is basically the higher the better. Do Google this cost of poor quality, and if you look at an image, you'll see what they are. What you want to do is get them as close to the beginning as possible. So if you can do it in design, that's beautiful. Just fix everything in design. Prevention, let's say it costs $1. If you miss prevention, then you get an appraisal. That's where you do the test. That usually costs 10 times more. And then if you have an internal failure, that's 10 times again, so it's $100. And if it fails externally, that's $1,000. This is the cost of poor quality. How much does it cost to screw up? And a guy named Philip Crosby actually found out that quality pays for itself.